Выстрел!
As diplomacy unfolds behind closed doors, the battlefield reality refuses to pause. From Moscow tonight, the Kremlin is making one thing unmistakably clear: territory is non-negotiable. Russia says any deal to end the war in Ukraine must include Kyiv ceding all of the Donbas region, a demand President Vladimir Putin has repeated for months, warning Russia will take the territory by force if it is not handed over at the negotiating table. According to the Kremlin, this position is part of what it calls the Anchorage formula, an understanding Moscow claims was reached between Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump at a summit in Alaska last year. Under that framework, Ukraine would give up the remaining parts of Donetsk and Luhansk, while front lines elsewhere would be frozen. Ukraine has rejected that outright, insisting it will not surrender land Russia failed to fully seize on the battlefield. Yet despite the hard lines, talks have begun. For the first time since Russia's invasion in 2022, officials from Ukraine, Russia, and the United States sat down together in Abu Dhabi. 2 days of trilateral talks. No breakthrough, but plans for more meetings, possibly as soon as next week. The Kremlin calls the discussions constructive, while cautioning that expecting quick results would be a mistake.
Zelensky's refusal, following the Abu Dhabi talks, to withdraw his troops from Donbas signify, in Moscow's opinion, an actual rejection of implementing one of the conditions of the Anchorage formula.
Let's not discuss each separate point individually. Our position on this matter is already very well known. The Anchorage formula, it was thoroughly discussed, and a corresponding understanding was successfully reached with the American negotiators and President Trump. Right now, negotiations, as you can see, are taking place at an expert level. In fact, a working group is operating. That's exactly what it's called. The negotiations in this direct format are currently in their initial stages. It would be wrong at this point to discuss any specific provisions, or rather the issues that are currently on the agenda, and it would be especially wrong to do so in a public format.
It is no secret to anyone, and this is our consistent and firm position, the position of our president, that this territorial question, which is part of the Anchorage formula,
It, of course, holds absolutely fundamental importance for the Russian state, and our negotiators, as you can clearly see, are continuing to steadfastly defend our interests. We will have to wait and see how events will continue to develop from this point forward.
Dmitry Sergeyevich, how do you assess these negotiations overall?
I cannot provide an evaluation yet. It would be a serious mistake to expect such a high level of effectiveness from the very first contact. This is a very complex substance. Difficult questions are currently on the agenda. However, the very fact that these contacts have begun in a constructive manner, this can certainly be evaluated positively. However, much serious work still lies ahead. What about the USA?
Are they considering the possibility of a sea pipeline to Cuba to supply them with oil?
Yes, we are indeed reading a significant number of messages regarding this. This is disturbing information. We know that our Cuban comrades are filled with resolve to uphold their interests, to defend their independence. And we also hold in very high regard our own separate bilateral relations with Cuba.
Zelensky struck a cautious note of optimism. He says discussions focused on the parameters of ending the war, including territory, security, and economic guarantees. Ukraine, he says, has already prepared a document outlining security guarantees, with a key focus on bilateral guarantees from the United States. That document, Zelensky says, is ready to be signed, pending agreement from partners and ratification by lawmakers.
bilateral security guarantees with the United States of America. The document is 100% ready. We await our partners' readiness to set a date and place for its signing, and then the document will go for ratification in the US Congress and the Ukrainian Parliament. There were a great many problematic issues. Their number has decreased, and for a considerably long time now, Russia has wanted to do everything possible to ensure Ukraine is not present in the east of our state. The reason is clear. They set this as their goal, and it's absolutely understandable that they want to achieve this goal. On the front, however, they are not yet able to do so. Our position regarding our territory, the territorial integrity of Ukraine, which must be respected, I will not repeat. Everyone is well aware of our position. We are fighting for our own country, for what is ours. We are not fighting on the territory of a foreign land. So I think, what questions could you possibly have for us? Americans are trying to find a compromise. We are moving towards communicating in a trilateral format. These are the very first steps, perhaps, in order to find that same solution. Compromise. But for a compromise, all sides must be willing to compromise. And by the way, the American side as well.
But Moscow is accusing Kyiv of dragging its feet. A Russian presidential envoy claims Zelensky's refusal to discuss territorial concessions is delaying peace, after the Ukrainian leader criticized European indecision at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Zelensky rejects that narrative. He says Ukraine is fighting for what is its own, not foreign land, and that territorial integrity must be respected. The United States, meanwhile, is pushing for compromise, with President Trump framing territorial concessions as the price of peace. For now, the talks continue, the bombs keep falling, and the future of eastern Ukraine remains the central fault line between war and peace.
Times of India videos, your daily dose of India and the world. Global news, different views, and sharp analysis.
Pressure of expectation from your fans, your supporters.
That is often served as a backdrop for several Bollywood.
You're not a brute majority anymore. If you individually take out Tehran.
Making sense of global conflicts. Tracking the new emerging world order.
Strike on Israeli military bases.
A multi-pronged.
To stay out of harm's way as Israel started bombing targets across.
Understanding changing alliances in a polarized world. Tune into TOI videos for all this and more. Click on the bell icon to subscribe and never miss an update.